really shocking when you start to trace how so many different social problems are really rooted in racism.
Yes.
So can you talk about, from your learnings, from everything that you were able to kind of, and even, like, obviously there's more than what's in the book. I'm sure you had amazing conversations, interviews. Why is it important, do you think, to understand these topics from this lens of race and equity?
Yeah, so the sentence I always say, and it's an amended version of the Black Women Best framework coined by Janelle Jones, who was the first Black woman and Black person to be the chief economist at the Department of Labor. It's this idea that the best outcome for Black people is a better outcome for everyone else. And this is true globally, right? So I'm talking to Toronto right now. And so I want to make it very clear. It's still true in Canada. It's still true in Toronto. Still true in the six. And so that being said, it's important that if you are creating policies in any setting, that you're thinking about how Black people, and I would go so far to say Black women and non-binary people, are being affected first, right? So I think, like, really quickly, I'll give you an example. Since you and I are kind of in the workplace setting when it comes to research, a lot of people are complaining about, remote work and how it's affecting different groups. But I think it's really, really important to glean insights from how women of color, more specifically Black women, are reacting to the remote work revolution. And what we're finding, at least anecdotally, is that they love it, right? There is a lack of microaggressions. There's a lack of macroaggressions. It's easier to do your work because you're not trying to survive the workplace. Yeah. And so the insight from that shouldn't be, well, good, we still need you in the office. It should be, what are we doing in the workplace that is preventing people from wanting to come back? And how do we, then switch up the workplace so that it's better accommodating to employees that feel like they're being harmed by it? So that is kind of, what I would say is a really clear example of this. I think the other thing too, we can talk about some bigger issues where climate change is something that, everybody cares about. However, if you haven't noticed, even the climate youth activists that are represented heavily by the media are white. However, those white climate youth activists come from countries that are actually the problem, right? And so we should really be talking to Indigenous and Black or brown individuals who are at the forefront of this fight. And that's because they're part of communities that are actually championing sustainability in their communities before it was popular, right? And so I think that, this is kind of an example of, there are people who have suffered disproportionately from the harms perpetuated in society. And because they suffer disproportionately, they have to find creative solutions to those problems. And so we should start with them instead of starting with the people who might be part of the problem indirectly or directly. And so that's kind of the big idea around the book.